This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with Barbara Widmer from Brancaia, who's joining us all the way from Tuscany. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, I'm quite familiar with your family's winery, but just in case some of our readership are not, would you mind explaining a little bit about the history, the interesting history, that brought your family to Tuscany?
Oh, sure, I would love to. Well, May, as you can imagine from my name and as you may can see, I'm not Italian at all. I'm Swiss, and the first time we came to Tuscany was at Christmas 1980, and we went there just for holidays. My parents fall in love with the region, with the people, with the wine, with the food, with everything, and so they thought that it would be lovely having a holiday house there. They looked around and they found Brancaia, which is on a lovely nice hill, and on the top there is the house, and as you may can imagine, on the hill there were some vineyards. So my family actually became winemakers by accident.
Now, they didn't have any formal training in winemaking. How did you go from what was essentially a kind of holiday home purchase into making one of the more respected labels in Tuscany today?
Well, it took us quite a lot of steps, but first of all, my dad was in advertising business, and he just decided if he has to become a winemaker, he really wants to make quality wine, and as you just mentioned, we didn't really have the knowledge, so we looked around in the region and we asked for help from other wineries, and we were very fortunate to get this help, and then afterwards, step by step, we improved our own knowledge till 98, when I really finished my studies about winemaking, and I moved to Italy, and since then I'm making the wines for Brancaia.
Fantastic. Now, I have to ask you, did your family force you into going to winemaking school?
Well, this is actually a funny story. I have two older brothers, but my parents, they always thought that I would be the winemaker in the family.
Interesting.
I don't really know why. So when I was 16, they really started to say, well, you should do wine. With 16, May, you can imagine, growing up in Zurich in a nice town, wine was not really part of my daily life.
Okay.
So I had, of course, already my first sip of wines, and I enjoyed a lot these sips, but it was not part of my daily life, fortunately. So when I finished high school, actually, I started to study architecture just as a nice response to my parents' wish. With 22, I was not anymore that convinced that architecture could be my way to go. So I asked them if I can take 1 year off and could work in a winery just to figure out if maybe wine is my destiny. And as you may can imagine, they were happy. And I went to the French part of Switzerland and worked there for a whole year, 6 months every day in the vineyards and 6 months every day in the cellar. And honestly, already after the first, maybe second week, I was pretty convinced that this is my way to go. And after this year, I went back to the university where I studied winemaking.
Now, along the way, you've had a little bit of direction from a rather famous name in Italy, have you not?
Yeah, sure. I still have, actually. Carlo Farini is our consultant since '92, so he was already at Brancaia and I was still at the university, and he is still with us. And it's pretty interesting still. I mean, we know each other today, of course, very well, and we know where we want to go. But as everybody knows, wine drinking and wine tasting, even on a high level, is still something very personal. So having a good day, having a bad day does still have an impact of how you taste. So making important tasting, what means, of course, in my case, blending a wine, is very useful, being not by your own, but having a group with people you know very well, and just to decide together. And Carlo Farini is one of those 4 people which to taste the wines with me.
But you still make the final decision at the end of the day.
That's true.
This is a very good thing.
That's a very good thing, yes.
Now, since you joined the winery, what kind of evolution have you seen in the winemaking styles and perhaps the blends?
Well, winemaking is something very personal. It's very good and crucial to go to university and to learn, but when you're then at work, you just figure out that there is still a lot to learn, and each vintage is, of course, different. So you always have to challenge yourself, and of course, you mature, you change. So when I compare how Brancaia is today than it was 20 years ago, it's much more back to earth, much more back to nature.
You were telling me earlier that you're natural ferment driven now.
Yes, since 8 years we don't use any yeast. That means it's everything a natural, spontaneous fermentation. And of course, you can imagine to have this flora on your grapes. That means, of course, also how you work in the vineyards must be very natural. We don't use any fungicides, any pesticides. It's not yet all over where I would love to be, but we do go more and more organic every year, and there is no doubt about more respect you have to nature, more you understand your plants better, and more typical will be the grape. And actually it's all about the grape.
And what can you tell me about plans that you have in the future for Brancaia?
Well, it's really improving to get more and more the character of each single block, and we are looking very much to make 100% Sangiovese. As you may know, Sangiovese is that grape in Tuscany, and it really gives a very special and unique character.
Now, when you make a monovarietal Sangiovese, it has to be very special fruit, does it not? Because otherwise, Sangiovese has for so many years, for so many centuries, been blended most of the time. When one makes a monovarietal Sangiovese, what are you looking for in the fruit? What makes that fruit so special that you feel it would work well as a monovarietal?
Well, it's actually, in the Chianti Classico, where 2/3 of our estate is at home, the Sangiovese always has been a blend. In other regions, as Brunello, it actually was always 100% Sangiovese. I guess that comes that in the Chianti Classico region, you have a tough time to make each year 100% Sangiovese.
Yeah.
So with the blend, you help somehow, to get still the nice fresh fruit without having the acidity too high. But today's you have other clones, much better how to work in the vineyards. So we really learned that we can do today also 100% Sangiovese, which are complex and elegant. For me, actually, all wines at Brancaia, they need to be elegant. So it must be in a very nice harmony about flavors, about acidity, tannins, and alcohol.
Do you have a name for this new child of yours?
I'm not really sure yet.
Okay.
You have to come up in maybe about 2-3 years.
Okay.
So I still have some time to think about.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to that. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us in Toronto today at Good Food Revolution.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye for now.
Bye.